The Hurt Locker, for instance, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Thank you.
It's such a good movie.
Thank you.
It's so good because it's so like you can see how he would be like that. You could see how he would be drawn to go back there. You could see how the pull of it all and the chaos of it all. And then there's a scene where I believe he's in a supermarket, and it's just fucking boring. Life is just the mundane, normal life, and he just wants to go back to war.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I buy it all in. You know, it's like it's very rare that you see him. There's like no suspension of disbelief. You buy him, you're watching that film, and you're like, whoa! Like I could see.
Well, that was a big part of what we were trying to do was to. So I had been in Baghdad as a reporter in 2004, I guess, and I had seen some of what's depicted in the film, and so I had witnessed the bomb squad going out and defusing bombs, and I wrote an article about it, and then the idea came along for a screenplay. I had the idea to write a screenplay, put it that way, and my whole thing is over the course of a year, I didn't know how to write a screenplay, but my whole thing as I was learning how to do it and doing rewrites was to try to replicate the experience that I felt when I was there. Okay, so to do that, there was a lot of craft and whatnot involved in creating that I had to learn, but it also meant breaking a lot of rules of narrative and storytelling that you normally would do to make a movie effective, but that in this case would have made it less authentic to the experience. Like one, for example, is that most war movies are organized around a mission. It's like in the beginning of the movie, you're told, hey, this is what we got to do, and then the rest of the movie plays out, like Saving Private Ryan or what have you. When I was in Baghdad, one of the things I was struck by was this ceaseless, like, hamster wheel repetition of the war, that it wasn't organized around a single mission. It was this futile attempt to try to find all these bombs that had been dispersed throughout the country by the counterinsurgency. So I couldn't organize it around a mission. I had, at least in my mind, to keep it authentic, I had to kind of make the story similar enough to the reality, which was like every day a new mission, like a kind of, episodic structure, they call it. So there were all these decisions along the way that get made to create that feeling that you have where you go, oh, I can suspend my disbelief because this feels real. And then there's the point at which, like, you do all this research. I did all that research of actually going there, hanging out with these guys, talking to them, witnessing what they were doing, trying to get deep inside of it, learning about IEDs and how they work, and really getting inside their mentality, hanging out with them. And then there's another point at which you kind of put yourself into the piece too. And it's funny that you mentioned the scene at the end. And it's been really instructive to me because when I was doing screenings for The Hurt Locker, a lot of times at the end of the screening, like a vet would come up, and that scene in the grocery store where Sergeant James, that's the character name, was like kind of first time back from the war, and he's like overwhelmed by the commercialism of the supermarket and all the choices of cereal. And it's not just that it's boring, it's that it's like so meaningless compared to what he'd just been doing, and he can't function. And you've seen this guy operate on such a high level for the past, whatever it is, hour and a half.
Yeah, there's a scene right there.
Oh, and he can't choose, all this like consumer shit.
It was such a good representation of what these guys have to go through.
But and Renner is so good there too.
He's amazing.
But that actual thing had happened to me coming back. I felt this sense of dislocation, and I was only there for like a couple weeks, but I felt this sense of like how surreally grotesque like certain parts of our wealth are after you see this poverty and you see the hardship of the war. So that was like my thing. That wasn't like a research thing. And it's just interesting. It was like totally from my heart. And I remember putting it in and thinking, this is one of the rare things in the movie that like I didn't get from reporting. And it actually turned out to be one of the things that translated the most to other people. And it kind of taught me about like, well, sometimes if you just dig deep enough, probably there's a chance anyway that like your experiences or my experiences, if you're really being honest about them, and this goes back to where we started this conversation, will translate to other people. Even if you think they're super hyper fucking specific to you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. It might be hyper specific
so that's
to you,
what
but it's very relatable. It's relatable because
it is in retrospect, but at the time I was like, this is just a weird thing that happened to me.
Nah, but you nailed it because in the context of the movie, you see that this guy is, every time he's defusing a bomb, this could be it. And he's over there in this chaos-ridden war zone, and then he comes back and he's wandering through a supermarket aisle. It was perfect. It was the perfect juxtaposition, and it really does. You do relate to it, because I think all of us are aware that you kind of get accustomed to whatever you're around. You know, you get accustomed to a chaotic home life or a peaceful home life. You get a very busy workplace where people are yelling at each other and everything's constantly moving fast, or boring, droning cubicle life. Like, people understand that there's like certain ways of living and existing that you can get accustomed to, and they kind of make sense when you've adjusted and adapted to them. But then to have such a clear difference between being in a war zone and being in a supermarket, it was perfect.
Well, thanks. I'll take that.
Yeah, no, it was really good, man.